Okay. Okay. Welcome to our day 16, class number 16 of our program. And I would like to welcome you all um, with a short meditation, just 1 or 2 minutes, taking a good long deep breath with closed eyes, focusing on your present moment. Scan your mind, scan your thoughts, recognize the thoughts that are arising in you right here, right now. See what kind of thoughts you are getting now. Are they positive or are they negative? Don't try to suppress them. Don't try to resist them. Just observe them. Just recognize them. Is that the same thought that is coming to you or different thoughts? A number of thoughts. All right, please take a good long deep breath and hold it for a few seconds. Breathing through the nostril and then slowly release and relax. Absorb all the wonderful positive energy through the incoming breath and remove all the negative energies with the outgoing breaths. Now, gently and compassionately open your eyes with a more positive, awesome attitude towards yourself and towards everyone else in the class. Now, please text with one word of your reflection, how you feel right here, right now. Can somebody please read these reflections? That will be wonderful.
I'll go ahead and read.
Okay.
We have Tara saying excellent. Ayler said aware. Jojo said energetic. I said calmer. Bante Vegeta said energetic. And Mark said refresh.
Wonderful.
Gabriella said thriving peacefully.
Okay, great. So, so in today's class, we are going to discuss about the differences between Buddhist teachings and traditional Indian culture. But we have already touched these topics, but I probably want to emphasize a little bit more about the women in Buddhism, especially the Bhikkhuni Sangha, um, and the differences between Buddhist teachings and traditional Indian culture. Let's take a look at this picture and say something. You can say something or you can type.
Colorful.
Okay. Ira, would you like to read them?
Of course. So we have Julie saying colorful. Jojo said it's all good. I said diversity of music, religion, food, and clothing. Maria said bling. Tara said shared culture. And Ayler said rich tradition, lots of engaging in sense pleasures, food, music, dance, beauty. Jungchuk said religion, food, and clothing. I think in response to Maria. I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay. You can see like India is also, it is said India is a mini world of its own. It's such a diverse country. Like if you go to North India, Northeast, Northwest, South India, and all different areas, they have so many different languages, so many different costumes, and the music and religions, so many, and there are rituals, rites and rituals. Food culture is truly amazing too. You can see also symbolically, I have added one food item here to give you an idea how diverse this wonderful country is. And they had the privilege of the the rising of the Buddha, appearance of the Buddha in that country. So during the Buddha's time, India, Nepal, uh, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Afghanistan, they are all just one country. So later on, uh, the the country was divided into different parts, uh, different depending on different situation, especially after the colonial period. The country was divided. So we can see amidst these so many diversities, the rising of the Buddha took place. And then he also had to challenge the existing discriminations, existing social disparities, many situations that he was living with, and he really worked so hard to change the current situation in the country, in the society. And his amazingly powerful revolutionary ideas of the society and the ethics and the philosophy in general were truly wonderful. And even today, after 2.5 millennia, we can still appreciate, we can still find the validity of this great tradition. So that's why the Buddha's contribution is so really wonderful. Before going to, as I mentioned, we already have discussed many things about this. Before going to little bit more extensive discussion on the Bhikkhuni Sangha, the women uh, in Buddhism, and freedom, or many things that we are going to discuss later. Before that, I also would like to mention we have some students in the class. Actually, I didn't know that before. So they are attending to their um, parents, and some of them are attending to their husbands, and so we have to out of respect for these people, I would like to give probably 5 minutes break every hour, so that they can, they said they want to attend to their um, people whom they care. So that means we will have maybe not 15 minutes break. Okay, so maybe we will have maybe 7 minute break and 8 minutes break. That should be, I hope, fine. And then also, as usual, we will have Ayla today leading some bodily movement, physical exercise, right? How long do you need?
Just 5 minutes.
Okay, great. That's really good. So Ayla will lead us also to bring some comfort to all of you, some flexibility. Okay, right. So let me, um, now it is 4:42. So we will have a 5 minutes break, 7 minutes break in an hour or so. Okay, right. Let me share with you the. Yeah, I think I really want to discuss about the article. Um, Again, I have prepared some articles today. Like yesterday, we will discuss in the group later on. So maybe I will share this link first. Okay, here's the article that we want to first discuss. And I also would like to invite any of you to read this article. Let me actually open the editor's version so we get less distraction. Okay. Can you read this?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Okay, great. Anyone would like to read?
I can read, Monday.
Okay.
So we have the article, The Revolutionary Departure, examining the fundamental differences between Buddhist teachings and traditional Indian culture in the 6th century BCE. Summary. This article examines the fundamental differences between Buddhist teachings and the traditional Indian culture in the 6th century BCE, demonstrating how Buddhism represented a revolutionary departure from established religious, social, and philosophical norms. The analysis reveals that Buddhism challenged traditional Indian culture across multiple dimensions, socially through its rejection of a hereditary caste system and inclusion of women in religious life, religiously by emphasizing personal verification over scripturally authority and rejecting Vedic ritualism, philosophically through its doctrine of no self, anatman, that contradicted the tradition Atman Brahman teaching, ethically by focusing on individual liberation rather than cosmic duty, linguistically by teaching in vernacular languages instead of Sanskrit, and economically by promoting simplicity over elaborate ritual expenditure. These differences were not merely theoretical variations, but constituted a systematic challenge to existing power structures and spiritual methodologies, creating an accessible and egalitarian path to liberation that would ultimately influence civilization throughout Asia.
Thank you. Okay, so here we can see Buddha's revolutionary departure. That's a very interesting word, like revolutionary departure from the established system. He himself was a royal prince before, and then he departed that, and he renounced that luxurious lifestyle, and then he chose himself to be leading minimalistic lifestyle ever since. From the age of 29, he once he left the royal comforts, he never went back to that comfortable, so-called comfortable lifestyle. Sensual pleasures were not in his subject anymore. And then for 6 long years, he underwent penances, extreme penances, torturing himself bodily, physically, really challenging part again. And eventually he found middle path was the best solution for his spiritual accomplishment. And so he achieved enlightenment at the age of 35. He was a Samma Sambuddha, the perfectly enlightened Samma Sambuddha. And ever since, for 45 long years, he walked, despite the fact he had supernatural powers within him. He mostly walked on barefoot, and he went to many different people, helping each other. And then over here, the Buddha said he departed, established religious institutions, and established social norms, established philosophical norms. These are really, he was actually challenging all these established norms with such a powerful self confidence within him. Only he could do that. Otherwise, it would be very hard to survive, uh, to sustain in that powerful situation, social, religious, and philosophical norms during that time. So Buddha single-handedly started challenging all those religious, social, and philosophical leaders. That's a really important thing in Buddhism. So this analysis we can see here how Buddhism challenged the traditional Indian culture across multiple dimensions. So he rejected the hereditary caste system. He was completely against Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, especially the outcast system, the Varna system, and how certain generation or certain community of the society had different privileges as against the other underprivileged community. So he was against that. He really was working really hard to convince the society that there should be no disparity like that. For a harmonious, peaceful coexistence in the society, everyone should be treated equally. That was his philosophy, and this was against the powerful Brahmin authority and also the other communities. But mostly except the Brahmin community, the other people were usually very easily assimilating the Buddha's philosophy. And having said that, the Buddha himself was positively criticizing the Brahmin concept. How to be a better Brahmin, he said. If you want to be a better Brahmin, you have to get rid of these things, and you really can make yourself a better Brahmin by practicing this equality, by practicing these noble thoughts, ethics. That's how the Buddha was interpreting. And many young Brahmin, scholarly, educated Brahmins also followed the Buddha's teaching later on. And if you see Sariputta, Moggallana, they are definitely from the Brahmin class. And they are quite educated and young and exuberant generation of people um, following the Buddha's teaching and rejecting the existing Vedic ritualism and philosophies and the doctrines of Atman, like the self, which was also very hard during that time. I think Buddhism was the only religion, probably even today, we can see very hardly any religious institution is there in the world who do not talk about who refuses the existence of self, the permanent entity called Atman or self or mm, whatever. So, soul, for example, and the Buddhism was critically engaged in analyzing the self and the aggregates, the five aggregates, eventually saying there is no permanent entity called self or soul. And so that contradicted the traditional Atman Brahmin teaching. So ethically, the Buddha's liberation also was different, and the very enlightenment itself is not to be born in another realm. That was not Buddhist liberation, Buddhist final enlightenment or summum bonum of Buddhism, which is actually focusing on realization of the Dharma, and also the very absence of all forms of attachments, all forms of desires. And that is what he called nirvana or nibbana or enlightenment. And also linguistically, those days, the most predominant scholarly language was Sanskrit, adapted by the Brahmin class, and the Buddha, against that, Buddha selected more popular language, more simple language, called Pali so that everyone could understand what he said. Mostly the Sanskrit language was very much restricted to scholarly class only, and the other people would not, be able to understand the Sanskrit language. So Buddhist tradition started with Pali that way, and lately we can see the when it came to the Mahayana Buddhism, they started using Sanskrit as against the Pali version, and then it was also called by the Brahmin scholars as hybrid Sanskrit. So that was they wanted to call it a different subculture. So they still wanted to remain unique in their own Brahmin tradition. So the hybrid Sanskrit was the one used for Buddhist Sanskrit. And so these differences were not only theoretical, but also very systematic. And the Buddha's methodology and Buddha's powerful scientific foundation was truly wonderful, and it worked really well. Not only in India and all throughout Asia, and later on it was migrating to many different countries as well. Okay, that is the introduction to this part. Let us continue the article introduction. Mark, would you like to read?
Yes.
Okay.
Introduction. The emergence of Buddhism in the 6th century BCE represented one of the most significant cultural and religious revolutions in ancient India. While Buddhism arose within the broader context of Indian civilization, the teachings of Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, fundamentally challenged and departed from many core assumptions of traditional Indian culture. This article examines the key areas where Buddhist teachings diverged from established Indian traditions, analyzing how Buddhism's revolutionary approach to social hierarchy, religious authority, ritual practice, and ethical frameworks created a distinct cultural movement that would ultimately transform not only Indian society but influence civilizations across Asia.
Thank you. And please be mindful that our topic is differences between Buddhist teachings and traditional Indian culture. So when it came to Indian culture, there were a lot of rites and rituals that the Buddha was pretty much against. Uh, Buddha said that they would not lead someone to attain the final liberation. So, having said that, we still struggle in our traditional setup, maybe even in the Western version, we still struggle to get rid of these rites and rituals that could really hinder our spiritual progress. So keep in mind that the Buddha was very much against some of the many blind rites and rituals which were very much rampant in the Buddha's time. And let us talk about some of them through the article. Yes,
The so-
please.
social revolutionary context, rejection of the Varna system. Perhaps the most radical departure of Buddhist teachings from traditional Indian culture was its categorical rejection of the Varna caste system that formed the foundation of Vedic society. Traditional Indian culture, as codified in texts like the Manusmriti,
Manusmriti.
Manusmru, Manusmruti, Riti. Manusmriti, mentioned that social hierarchy was divinely ordained and cosmically necessary. The four varnas, Brahmins, priests, Kshatriya, warrior.
Kshatriyas.
I'm sorry,
Kshatriyas.
Kshatriyas, warriors, uh,
Vaishyas.
Vaishyas, merchants, and Shudras, laborers, were believed to emerge from different parts of the cosmic Purusha, making social mobility not merely difficult but spiritually illegible.
Illegitimate. Yeah. So over here we can see Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, the four main varnas, four main castes. And there were again the outcasts or lower castes even before, even below that level. Like Shudras here already lower caste. But then there were like even more lower castes. Remember that also. They were called Vena Nesada Pukura Kukura Ratakara, something that different professions like again in the lower categories, different versions. So the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas were the most privileged classes in the society. Brahmins were priests. They were administering the rituals, rites, and also they had the more authoritative power even to give counseling to the Kshatriyas, the warriors or the ruling class. And then the Vaishyas were more into business and they were really traveling most of the time and also they were doing business. So those are the three most important communities, whereas the Shudras and the others were um, working hard in the ground level. Okay. Yes, please.
Yeah. Yeah. Buddhism fundamentally challenged this worldview by declaring that spiritual attainment was available to all beings regardless of birth. The Buddha's famous declaration that one is not a Brahmin by birth, but by deed.
Najacha Najacha Brahmana hoti Kammuna Brahmana hoti. So in the Vasala Sutta it is said Najacha Vasalo hoti Najacha hoti Brahmano Kammana Vasalo hoti Kammana hoti Brahmano. So over here you can see the summary of that.
It represented a direct assault on the hereditary basis of traditional Indian social organization. This principle was not merely theoretical. The early Buddhist Sangha actively welcomed members from all social backgrounds, including those considered untouchable in traditional society. Before I continue, I see a question from Tara
Mm.
that is there currently a universal Buddhist language in the modern era, or do Buddhists use the given cultural language dependent on country or locations?
I think we don't have a particular, um, language like the official Buddhist language. Mostly the early Buddhist school they use Pali, and then the later Buddhist, especially the Mahayana version, they had Sanskrit, but the later on, like in the mainland China, they use Chinese language, and in South Korea, they use Korean language. In Japan, they use Japanese language. So in different countries, they use their own languages. And the Buddha himself said, Sakaya Nirutya, you can actually use your own language. It is perfectly all right. If you are a Filipino, you can use Philippine language. If you are an Indian, you can use Indian language. If you are a Sri Lankan use Sri Lankan, Thai, Myanmar, Cambodian, whatever language you feel more comfortable. If you are English, use English language. So I think that is what is happening currently in the world scenario.
Bronte, I have a question before you go on, and
Okay.
that's related to this one from Tara also. I've never been sure if the Pali language is understood by people in the Indian culture. Is like Hindi. Can they understand Pali? Is it related or is it completely different?
Well, Sanskrit definitely was a scholarly language. Okay. So that was again a very refined language. A very limited community was able to access that language. So Sanskrit was not a popular language in that case. Then it is said the Buddha used the Pali language, which was more popular in what do you call the area that the Buddha was traveling during that. It's like lingua franca of that area. So people from different areas, they were able to understand Pali, which was more simple as compared to Sanskrit. And if you see, like in modern day Hindi, if you compare Hindi, Pali, Sanskrit, and also I actually have a lot of friends in over here, Punjab and Maharashtra. They all say like Pali has lot of similarities with their own languages. So it looks like, Pali had a popular version, and so probably that is why the Buddha used it as a lingua franca to communicate as a common language. Even today in India, like there is not one language. I think there are, if I'm not mistaken, there are 16 official languages in India, not one language. Hindi is one of them. Hindi is understood by majority of the country, but then the accent, people in the south, they would speak Hindi with little bit of a different tone, accent, and then the people in the northeast, they would also speak Hindi little differently. So the other people know, oh, these people are from the south, these people are from the south or northeast or whatever, So many people understand Hindi, but not everyone. There are many people who don't understand Hindi at all today. So, having said that, I think in India today, English is the lingua franca. In conferences and in many cases, meetings, so, interstate meetings, they use English. So probably English is more popular today, but we don't have any particular one language. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you, Bante.
Okay.
So continue with gender. Yeah. Gender and religious participation. Traditional Indian culture severely restricted women's participation in religious life, particularly in Vedic rituals and spiritual instructions. The establishment of sacred thread ceremonies, upanayana, exclusively for males of the upper three varnas, symbolized women's exclusion from direct religious participation. Buddhist teachings, by contrast, recognize women's equal capacity for spiritual realization, as evidenced by the Buddha's establishment of the Bhikkhuni Sangha and the inclusion of enlightened women, Arahant Bhikkhunis, in early Buddhist literature.
Okay. So as we are dealing with this topic later on, so we will skip for now.
Mhm. Religious authority and revelation. Scriptural authority versus personal verification. Traditional Indian religious culture places supreme authority in the Vedas. Consider Abba Uru
Apa would say.
Abauruseya, not of human origin, and therefore infallible. Brahmins maintain exclusive right to interpret these texts, creating a hereditary priesthood that control access to religious knowledge. The Buddha's approach fundamentally challenged this system by emphasizing personal verification of truth through direct experience rather than blind acceptance of inherited authority. The Buddha's famous instruction to the Kalamas to test teachings against personal experience and reason rather than accepting them based on tradition, authority, or speculation, represented a revolutionary epistemological departure from traditional Indian religious mythology. This empirical approach to spiritual truth challenged the very foundation of Brahmanical authority and opened spiritual inquiry to rational investigation.
Yeah, so we already discussed about the Kalama Sutta and how the Buddha's, introduction to this Buddhist charter of free will was setting a very powerful foundation of the Buddhist revolutionary idea of freedom of thought.
Rejection of Vedic ritualism. Traditional Indian culture centered around elaborate Vedic rituals, yajnas, belief necessary for cosmic maintenance and personal spiritual advancement. These rituals require extensive knowledge of Sanskrit, precise performance protocols, and substantial material offerings, effectively limiting meaningful religious participation to the wealthy and educated elite. Buddhism rejected this entire ritualistic framework, instead emphasizing internal transformation through ethical conduct, sila, mental cultivation, samadhi, and wisdom development, panya. The Buddha's critique, uh, the Buddha's critique of animal sacrifice, a central feature of many Vedic rituals, represented both an ethical and practical rejection of traditional religious practice. Buddhism's emphasis on ahimsa, nonviolence, toward all sentient beings, stood in direct opposition to the ritual killing that characterized much of traditional Indian religious observance.
Thank you. So over here, we need to also pay attention to the Buddhist ethical conduct as against the Brahmanic rituals. So the Buddha talked about Sila Samadhi Panya, the ethical conduct and the mental cultivation and wisdom development. They are really the powerful foundation, the basis of the Buddhist spiritual path. And during that time, there were a lot of thousands and thousands of animals were sacrificed. And so the Buddha really was against that. And so for those Vedic rituals, like you have to kill so many animals, so they are called yajnas, and or those prayers that they would do by killing, the animals. Even today, there are this is still existing in India and even in Nepal. So killing of animals that is happening. Um, so. Uh, having said that, even in Buddhist traditions, we still have some rites and rituals which are not necessarily maybe leading us to Nibbana. So maybe we can, if you would like to say something, you can also discuss about that, especially the Buddhist concept of ahimsa or non-violence. Buddha started with the five precepts, and the very first precept is the refrain from killing living beings, not only humans but also the animals. So the Buddha was very much against that hinsa or the violence against anyone. And so, having said that, in Jainism, they have extreme practice like of ahimsa or non-violence. The Buddha was not even again Buddha's vision was that that itself can be a hindrance, and it is an extreme path. Like when you walk along the roads, you might so the Chinese people, they were practitioners, they were very worried that there are like ants, insects, and others like you might step on without any knowledge, so you are killing them. And then the Buddha said, if that happens like intentionally, of course, it could be a bad karma. But if that happens unintentionally, you don't want to do that. You just by accident, if that happens, that is not counted as a bad karma in Buddhism. And so the Buddha's middle path is important, and also the Jainis, the Jain practitioners, they were wearing a mask like today. Probably they did not have the viral diseases, viruses like today, because they used to continuously used to have masks with them. And so why did they do that? They did not want any sentient being or insects or whatever, come into them and die. uh, like even they had a water filter. Whenever they drink water, they would always use water filter because they worry that they would otherwise kill some sentient beings. Kind of very amazingly powerful practice. But then again, like in practical and pragmatic sense, this is not going to work. Like sweeping the road while walking, and things like that is so hard. And this is also why Jainism did not go to other countries as well, because Jainism does not believe in, they don't recommend traveling by air. So these are some of the extreme practices by the Jains. Against that, the other Hindus, they had some, although they practice like vegetarianism, sometimes like the way they killed animals for sacrifice was somewhat contradictory. And that's why the Buddha's teaching on ahimsa stood differently and revolutionary in that social setup. Okay, let's go to cosmological and metaphysical differences. If somebody else wants to read, you are also welcome.
I can keep reading.
Okay.
So the doctrine of no self versus Atman Brahman. Perhaps the most profound philosophical departure of Buddhism from traditional Indian thought was its rejection of the Atman, eternal soul, doctrine central to Upanishadic philosophy. Traditional Indian culture, particularly as developed in the Upanishads, maintained that individual consciousness, Atman, was ultimately identical with universal consciousness, Brahman, making liberation, moksha, a matter of realizing this pre-existing unity. Buddhism's Anatman, no self, teaching fundamentally challenged this metaphysical foundation by denying the existence of any permanent, unchanging essence in individuals. Instead, Buddhist analysis reveal only constant changing physical and mental processes. The five aggregates: form, sensation, perception, mental formations, and consciousness, making liberation a matter of understanding the constructed nature of selfhood rather than discovering an internal essence.
Yes, so I think this doctrine of no self in Buddhism, we will have, probably we will be able to discuss a little bit about that in the sutta over here. I think it should be the sutta. Let me see. Selected. Kacchanagotta Sutta, actually. Yeah. That is Kachayana Gotta Sutta. Over here you can see, maybe Mark, you can read this part first.
Mhm. The Buddha was staying at Savatthi at Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's monastery. The monk Kachayana Gota approached the Buddha with a question. I don't understand right view. Can you teach me how the right view relates to the world? Kachanyana, the confusion and deluded thinking in the world arises from polarizing view. There is a view of permanent existence and a view of permanent non-existence. When the origination of confused and deluded thinking is understood and abandoned, from right view, it is seen that non-existence does not occur. Furthermore, when the cessation of confused and deluded thinking is understood and abandoned, from right view, it is seen that existence does not occur.
You see now the two extreme views, either permanent existence or permanent non-existence. The Buddha said they are both extremes. So the existence here is the permanent existence of a soul, or the like eternalism, for example. It is called sasvata ditti or shasvata drushti in Sanskrit. And then the ucheda dishti or nihilistic viewpoint is that you don't have any existence after this life, and so that was the kind of the other extreme that those days the people were having. Okay.
The,
Yes, please.
the world is sustained by attachments, by clinging to conditioned thinking and wrong views rooted in ignorance of the Four Noble Truths. One who has developed right view no longer clings to attachments or fixated conditioned thinking or self-obsessions. It is understood that stress arising is stress arising. It is understood that stress passing away is stress passing away. In this, their knowledge is independent of other views. This is how right view relates to the world.
Yeah. So the Buddha was explaining here in this Kaccayana Gutta Sutta, a really important sutta actually, Kaccayana Gutta Sutta. I remember like we used to read this sutta when I was in Empty Cloud, and we used to chant this sutta and went to meditation right away, because in this sutta, Sammaditthi or right view is explained and followed by a beautiful explanation of the treatment of the dependent origination, paticca samuppada. Oops, sorry. Okay.
The view that everything exists is a wrong view, and the view that nothing exists is another wrong view. My Dharma avoids extreme views. I teach from the middle. I teach the Eightfold Path as the middle way that avoids extreme views.
Yeah, so the Buddha said, Majjhena Patipada, like the Tathagato Bhikkhave Dhammang Deseti Majjhena Patipada. So the Tathagata or the Buddha would teach the Dharma in the middle way, not going to any extremes, wrong view that everything exists, or the wrong view that nothing exists. So the Buddha was teaching the middle path, that is the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay, so I think we can now move to um, the discussion again. Okay, over here. Um, right, dependent origination and causal absolutism, which is another very important teaching philosophy that no other spiritual tradition has this kind of teaching.
Traditional Indian philosophical systems generally sought ultimate, unchanging principles underlying phenomenal existence. Buddhism's doctrine of dependent origination,
Pratitya samutpada.
pratityasamutpada,
Yeah,
rejected
that is the Sanskrit word. The Pali word is paticca samuppada.
pratityasamutpada, rejected this approach by demonstrating that all phenomena arise independent upon multiple causes and conditions, with no independent substantial existence. This relational understanding of causation challenged traditional Indian metaphysics, which typically posited substantial entitles as the foundation of experience.
Yeah, so I think the the teaching of Paticca Samuppada is very unique and such a powerful philosophical foundation in Buddhism, which is pretty much explaining why there is no self, the doctrine of no self or the anatta, which can be easily understood by learning more about this analytical study of dependent arising or dependent origination, paticca samuppada.
Ethical and practical orientations. Individual liberation versus cosmic duty. Traditional Indian culture emphasized dharma as cosmic duty determined by one's varna and life stage as asrama, making ethical behavior primarily a matter of fulfilling socially prescribed roles. Buddhist ethics, by contrast, focus on individual liberation from suffering through universal principles applicable to all beings regardless of social position. The Noble Eightfold Path provided a systematic approach to ethical development that transcended traditional social categories and emphasized personal responsibility for spiritual progress.
Okay, so over here, individual liberation versus cosmic duty. Again, the Buddhist teaching of ethics, by contrast, focus more on individual liberation. If you need to liberate yourself first, then you can also help others. Even the Buddha had to liberate himself first. He had to attain enlightenment himself first before helping others. So the Buddha said, every time you start with yourself, even practicing metta, for example, you have to cultivate metta towards yourself before transcending to others. And also why the Buddha, because he was the leader, and he had to sacrifice more time and energy as the spiritual leader. So he took longer time to fulfill paramitas, it is said. In Theravada Buddhism, it is said the 10 paramitas into 10 upaparamitas, that means sub perfections, and then paramattha paramita, further category of paramitas. So altogether, 30 paramitas have to be fulfilled by a perfectly enlightened, self-enlightened Sambuddha. And the other arhantas, just 10 paramitas are good enough for them. In Mahayana Buddhism, these 10 paramitas have been treated, maybe condensed version, like the 6 paramitas are mentioned. So that ethical foundation is different from the existing Hindu or Brahmin ethical foundation those days, especially the Buddha's treatment of Noble Eightfold Path is a very systematic approach to the ethical development of someone's spiritual progress. Okay. All right. I think it is almost an hour. We'll take a quick 7 minutes break. I want to give an opportunity for some of you to take care of your uh, medically. You want to help someone. So we'll see you in 7 minutes.
You know, a couple of things. You pronounced it Jainism. So is the singular going to be Jain?
Jainism is the ism is the religion. You know, Jain is the person like Buddhist.
Okay, so it is Jain. I was just looking at pronunciation.
Yeah, Jain is the adjective.
And then for them,
Sometimes noun also.
they had the belief in the soul. And I have a little hard time because the Buddhists do not believe in the soul, but the Buddhists believe that something transcends when the conditions are right and the right womb is available, then something is transcended. So is that not a soul?
No, in Buddhism we don't talk about soul. And actually, what happens here is like, let's say, like you clap with hands, right? Both hands, and then what happens? There is a sound. So that is the cause and condition. So in Buddhism, we always talk about causes and condition. That's why I think it's really important to learn a little bit more about Paticca Samuppada in order to understand, because many of you are also born with maybe like some of those traditions, backgrounds where you believed in a permanent entity, soul or whatever. But in Buddhism, we don't talk about that. When we go to the five aggregates, for example, we can see this body form, but it consists of five aggregates, which also is not permanent. And it is a constant rising and disappearance, appearance and disappearance of those, um, you know, little smaller um, cells that we have. So the aggregates, that's why in analyzing the four elements and the five aggregates, something to do with Buddhism, and there is no permanent entity just like that. So the karmic energy is a different thing. For example, if you plant, uh, let's say, a seed, an apple seed, an apple tree will grow. If you plant a coconut seed, coconut tree will grow. If you plant a mango tree will grow. That is the causes and conditions, and there is no kind of permanent entity going on. That we need to, I think, understand. Having said that, there are little entities like the form, the rupa, vedana, sanya, sankhara, vijnana, as it was mentioned here. The form, the perception, and the sensation, and the consciousness, and all these things are different aggregates, and when they are together, we called a body. Just like the a vehicle, if you dismantle all parts apart, and that is not called a vehicle. So when they are all put together, you can call it a motorbike or a car or bus or whatever. So similarly, this body also consists of different aggregates, and when we have those aggregates together, we can call a human being, or we can call an animal. And also then when we react to different conditions, like we see a thing through the eye, and then we recognize it, and then we react to that form, another form. If you like it, you probably will react differently. If you dislike it, you react differently. So that you create karma, sankhara. So that's a little complicated situation, but I think it's not also so difficult if you take a little bit more um, mm, deep dive into this karmic theory, the Paticca Samuppada theory. Um, Hopefully, will help you sort out this issue better.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said about the chariot parts and the aggregates. I think that
Yeah.
that really was the core that I was looking for.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So over here you can see the the ethical and practical orientations. And it is true, actually. It's very hard still to get rid of the notion that, okay, I will be born again. So, but in Buddhism, it is said whatever appears right here, right now, will disappear right away too. So it's hard. Like that's also why, like, sometimes Theravada and Mahayana also they had some philosophical differences. Sometimes you can see in Mahayana Buddhism, for example, the Buddhas are like in Pure Land, they are there forever or something like that. So it's again, as compared to the Theravada version, it's little different. And there are some philosophical foundations that we all can agree, but then also there are certain things which are differently interpreted lately, because it's true, because of the different cultures, different countries, different identities they had. So it was hard for people to recognize this. But I think today we have all versions together, and it's very, very good. I highly recommend you learn about these things in different perspectives and see what really is the soul, no soul theory. I highly recommend you read Milinda Panja, another really important book that could provide you a lot of. Do I hear something? So a lot of questions can be answered if you can take a look at this book called Milinda Panya. Um, yeah, the very good book also to find some answers to some of the lingering questions. So over here, language and accessibility, vernacular teachers, teaching versus sacred language. Again, as I mentioned, like Sanskrit versus Pali, and the economic and material perspectives, simplicity versus elaborate ritual economy. So how the Buddhist ideal of contentment and simple requisite. The four necessities like Chivara, Pindapata, Senasana, Gilana, Pachya, or food, clothing, shelter, and medicine. They are the important things for us to survive. So the Buddhist monks used to live with these simple practices. That's about this article. I think it can kind of give some idea about the topic today. And then we can move on to this topic, which is the Bhikkhuni Sangha. Probably many people are also concerned. Already we had some discussions about this. And actually today, yesterday was full moon day, right? Did you watch the moon? I think there was a lunar eclipse
Yeah,
yesterday. Yeah, did you see that? Like the blood moon or something. I heard because of the pollution, not like before, people can see the dark, but it's like a red moon that you can see. It is because of the pollution. It is said now it is like a red moon, and so in 3 years' time, probably you will get another. Um, Opportunity to see the full moon eclipse, lunar eclipse like this. So yesterday was a full moon day, and also it was important for the Bhikkhuni Sangha because in Sri Lanka, the Theri Sanghamita arrived in Sri Lanka with the sapling of the Bodhi tree, and she started the Bhikkhuni order there. We'll also, this particular full moon day is um, also to mark that day. So we can talk about that little later. So the women's liberation, you can see how Theri Mahapajapati Gautami, the Buddha's stepmother, she came along with 500 um, friends and relatives of her own community. They were all from, I guess they are all from the royal class families, and she, along with them, all wanted to become bhikkhunis. And then the Buddha immediately recognized it's not going to be easy. So many practical issues can be there. So we were definitely hesitant in accepting right away. It took some time. It was maybe like, certain several discussions were taking place in smoothly transitioning into an agreement. Okay, how if you want to become a bhikkhuni, and how do you survive, and how this combination of bhikkhus and bhikkhunis can also lead to some complexity, different situations, issues in future. The Buddha knew that. And recently, I actually remember um, there are some people who really like when the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis are living in the same monastery, and then also the some of the people, especially the traditional Buddhist followers, they don't like that idea. So we already can see some contradictory behaviors, and some people don't want to even go to the temple. And so they kind of back off. Issues are there, and with the new, there are even more complex issues like that could happen in future. So that's why Mahapajapati Gotami and her other relatives, all those women, they had to probably go through some conditions, which I have also discussed in a number of articles that I would like to share with you little later. So the Bhikkhuni Sangha is the order of fully ordained Buddhist nuns established by the Buddha and founded when Mahapajapati Gautami, the Buddha's foster mother, requested and was granted ordination. So they all became bhikkhunis afterwards. Allowed women to fully participate in the monastic life and the path to enlightenment on equal footing with male monks, the Bhikkhu Sangha. Bhikkhunis followed the same Vinaya monastic code and had access to the Buddha's teachings and spiritual training. So the monastic conducts were not the same. Of course, like, physically, like bodily, they are different, and their capacities are different. And so the monastic conduct, the code of conduct also has to be um, mm, formed according to that. So bhikkhus had 227 rules as against the 5, 8, or 10 precepts for lay devotees. And then the bhikkhunis had even more, because all these little precepts have been formed to safeguard their practice, their purity, and their spiritual progress. And then they had equal opportunity to become arahant. So once they attain arahant, of course there would be no gender difference or something. Everyone is arahant, enlightened. So many bhikkhunis, such as Khema Upalavanna, the foremost disciples, they achieved arahantship, excelling in various aspects of Dharma practice. Khema was the foremost among wise bhikkhunis. Upalavanna was the foremost among bhikkhunis with psychic powers. And they are really, really wonderful bhikkhunis. The Bhikkhuni Sangha played a significant role in early Buddhism, showing that gender was not a barrier to spiritual attainment. And there are quite a number of bhikkhunis who have done a remarkable job. For example, Bhikkhuni Dhammadinna was foremost among Dhamma teachers. And as I mentioned yesterday, Patachara was foremost among the Vinaya Bhikkhunis, Vinayadhara Bhikkhunis. And Kisa Gotami, we were talking about yesterday, she was foremost among the Bhikkhunis with coarse robes. And there were quite a lot of, like even Bhadda Kachana, that was Yasodhara. She was also foremost among, I think, quick in accessing with psychic powers or something like that. I don't remember the exact title, but many bhikkhunis were there in the past who, during the Buddha's time, who were entitled to unique, prestigious, uh, honorific titles by the Buddha. So the institution faced challenges over the centuries, but continued to be a source of inspiration and empowerment for Buddhist women globally. Bhikkhuni Sangha represents the Buddha's progressive stance on gender equality and spiritual liberation for all. That's ideally it looks really nice, but then it was always like a roller coaster ride. It was difficult and it was challenging throughout the history. We could see that. But it survived actually many centuries, and eventually the Theravada Bhikkhuni order disappeared for several centuries. And that is exactly why it was so hard in the last 30 years or so. I remember when I was in India, the modern Bhikkhuni Sasana started in India. Led by Sri Lankan bhikkhus and some other bhikkhunis. I think the bhikkhunis were invited from South Korea. And there were other monks who helped this event. That time I was a student in Delhi University, and I was really seeing that a sign, a symptom of hope, a sign of hope for bhikkhunis, or women to grow in the Theravada order. I always recognize that this role for women in Buddhism really deserve a great deal, because we can do certain things, certain services, like a mother or a sister for our society. There are people like maybe young girls, maybe even some ladies who really want feel more comfortable with the bhikkhunis. Just like the Christian nuns, I thought it would always be really nice to have the Theravada bhikkhunis also. They could help better to a greater section of the society, like a mother's role, sister's role. As a bhikkhuni, they can make a big difference. And luckily, the Mahayana bhikkhunis are like a lot. There are lots and lots of Mahayana bhikkhunis. They are also doing a remarkable job. Like, for example, in Maba, we have Venerable Kongyang. She is a very, very wonderful bhikkhuni. She leads a lot of things. We already saw that in the recently concluded retreat, how she was doing, managing so many things. Really wonderful bhikkhuni leader. And also, I remember when I was at the University of the West, I was also teaching some courses in Shilai Temple, and there were really beautiful people over there, like those bhikkhunis who were running the temple monastery that time. They were also leading many wonderful sessions. We do have Korean bhikkhunis. I know some Korean bhikkhunis. Even I was helping at the university, Delhi University, when I was there, and some of them even came to Sri Lanka for some consultations for their research degrees. And then some Vietnamese bhikkhunis, they are also really doing a great job. So in mainland China, in Japan, I don't know if there are bhikkhunis in Japan, though I have probably not seen. I actually know some bhikkhus, but probably not bhikkhunis. I don't know if there are bhikkhunis in Japan. Yeah, so that was interesting. Anyway, Mahayana Buddhism somehow had a lot of bhikkhunis, and they somehow, adjusted. They changed the dress, and they changed, adjusted according to the culture, the local cultures. But the Theravada bhikkhunis, just like the monks, we still have not changed the dress code. Although in Western countries, or when they go out, they still have maybe like a shirt or something. But mostly the Theravada bhikkhus, especially the Western monks and nuns, they still rigorously follow the traditional dress code. Interesting. And you can see some of the bhikkhunis who are foremost among seniority, the Mahapajapati Gautami. And then with great wisdom, it was Khema. And with psychic powers, it was Uppalavanna. And who have like memorized the monastic law, it is Patachara, like Vinedara bhikkhunis. And who speak on the teaching is Dhammadina, and then practice absorption is Nanda. She was the foremost among the jhana. And then highly energetic bhikkhuni was there called Sona. And with clairvoyance, like Dibba Chakku, that was Sakula. Then with swift insight is Bhaddha of the curly hair. This is Bhaddha Kundala Kesi. Another interesting story. You can read their stories, really, really inspiring stories about these women, how they have excelled their spiritual life, having gone through many challenges before. And also, who recollect past lives in is Bhadda, daughter of Kapila, Bhadda Kapilani, it is called, and who have attained great insight. This is Bhadda Kachana, also Yasodhara. Who wear coarse robes is Kesa Gotami, and who are committed to faith, Sigala Mata. So Sigala Mata is Sigala's mother. You already have heard about Sigalovada Sutta. So the young man Sigala's mother is the one who was very faithful, committed to faith, Saddha. That was the title given to her. And if you want to learn more about Bhikkhuni Sangha Theri Gatha Pali, can be a very interesting book for you to read. It's one of the canonical texts actually, Theragatha and Therigatha. So in Theragatha, you can read the accounts of those bhikkhus who have gone through many challenges and how they have also accomplish their spiritual goals while practicing. You can read them in Theragatha, while Bhikkhuni's Theri stories are also beautifully treated in the Therigatha. I would like to recommend, if you are interested in going through this book. Again, Khema is the wisest bhikkhuni, as I mentioned. So Khema, originally it is said she was a very arrogant lady. She probably was a royal class, a queen of a king. I don't remember exactly which king. And then a lot of people, when they go to the Buddha, so they all appreciated the Buddha's wonderful compassion and his amazing wisdom. So everyone was talking about the Buddha, and so they also invited the Khema to come, and she refused. And then after many, when people kept talking about the Buddha, she really wanted to go and see who is this Buddha. And then she did not want to go again close to the Buddha, but she was looking at him from far. Now the Buddha knew that she is there, and Buddha also knew the power of this bhikkhuni, this lady. So what happened here? Buddha used a magical, supernatural power presentation, only to be seen by her. While the Buddha was teaching the Dharma to the other audience, Khema from afar could see a beautiful young woman fanning the Buddha. And after a while, she saw that beautiful young woman was getting old and getting weak, and eventually she became a skeleton. And that transformation was a silent teaching by the Buddha. He used that visual mode to teach Kema without using any word. While teaching the other people, the Buddha just played this kind of PowerPoint presentation or, mental projection only towards Kema. And she truly understood this impermanence. So it is said like when somebody is, very high intellectual or IQ is very high. If you are a Buddhi Charita, this is the meditation that is recommended for them. That is the Asubha Bhavana or even Marananusati Bhavana, thinking of the foulness of the body or thinking of the contemplation of the death. So because they are able to understand the very nature. So the Buddha used this methodology. He is an amazing teacher already. He used this pedagogy, very advanced pedagogical styles for his teaching to many people. And then Kema became a bhikkhuni eventually. And then Mahapajapati Gautami is a tremendously powerful inspiration, and how she dedicated her life and energy. She really wanted to, practice this, and she really wanted to enter the order, and she agreed wholeheartedly, without any hesitation whatsoever conditions prescribed by the Buddha. I would follow. I'm okay. We would all follow these rules, conditions by the Buddha. So she is a tremendously powerful, inspirational character that we need to learn more about. Pajapati Gautami. Remember, she also was the stepmother, and when Queen Mahamaya passed away after 7 days after Buddha's birth, and um, Mahapajapati Gautami had to do something, and she was appointed to take care of the little prince, and she really did it truly, honestly, like Sri Siddhartha's own mother. So this life is again very inspirational. We learned about Kisa Gautami and Patachara yesterday, and how they also have become such powerful bhikkhunis later on by following the Buddha's path. And then bhikkhuni Sangamitas, another we in Sri Lanka, she is really respected like like a mother by the entire nation. Ever since she visited Sri Lanka, she never went back to India. She was already settled in India. And then even Arahant Mahinda and Arahanti Sangamita, they both lived in Sri Lanka for the rest of their lives, and how they contributed for the well-being and happiness of the many in that country is truly remarkable. And we are ever so grateful to these wonderful bhikkhunis, Sangha Mita. You can see the very Sangamitas was the daughter of Emperor Ashoka. We know Ashoka, how powerful he became, and how he also was able to send so many um, monks to different countries, missionary groups to different countries. And though she is renowned for establishing Bhikkhuni Sangha in Sri Lanka, after being invited by uh, mm, Arahanta Mahinda to establish Bhikkhuni ordination. So Sangamita also brought Bodhi tree sapling from India to Sri Lanka, and ever since Bodhi tree became an indispensable part of Sri Lankan Buddhism. So the sapling was planted in Anuradhapura, where it remains one of the oldest historically documented trees. We still have it. And ever since the kings and the monks and the local communities, they were safeguarding this wonderful, powerful Bodhi tree. And I had the opportunity to reach out to that tree quite a few times as I was just a few minutes away from my university. That's a really, really beautiful place. Lots and lots of people go there to pay respect. And the contributions were crucial in the spread of Buddhism in Sri Lanka. So, for the religious and cultural history of the island, it remained as the Theravada headquarters for many centuries because of the powerful leadership of Theri Sangamita and Thera Mahinda. Sangamita's work in establishing Bhikkhuni Sangha, especially we need to remember that in Sri Lanka, the king's wife, Queen Anula herself, was the first Bhikkhuni. So already had the royal patronage towards the Bhikkhuni order in Sri Lanka. And later on, they also went to many countries to establish Bhikkhuni order in different parts of the world, in mainland China, in Thailand and other countries also. Bhikkhuni Devasara and other group of Bhikkhunis, they were traveling to establish Bhikkhuni order. Over here, I want to also share with you some of the Bhikkhuni ordinations that I personally attended. This is Aranya Bodhi Hermitage by like founded by Ayya Tathaloka, and we have Bhikkhuni here, new Bhikkhuni. Um, yeah, just maybe a few months ago. And she, Dr. Kusuma Devendra, university professor from Colombo University, and she was the first modern day bhikkhuni, just like Theri Pajapati, and she really was a very wonderful bhikkhuni. I also have met her in person. And now she passed away a few years ago. And yeah, so these are the Western bhikkhus and bhikkhunis you can see. And if you haven't seen Aranyabodhi Hermitage, you should go there and see. This is a beautiful place for us bhikkhunis. You can see there. And I also stayed in a temporary hut for a week there. It's a beautiful place. I've been there several times. Um, so Dhamma Monastery and Aranyabodhi Hermitage, and along with the other places, Bhikkhuni Sangha in the West, especially the Theravada order, they are really, really doing great job. You can see here very eminent bhikkhunis here. One Myanmar bhikkhuni also is there. Can also see a Tibetan bhikkhuni and Ayatata Loka. And I think the other bhikkhuni probably Cambodian or Thai bhikkhuni. And you can also see like other countries like Taiwan, China, Korea. Um, so all of them together. I meet these bhikkhunis actually quite regularly online. You can see here I also was part of the Upasampada ceremony for bhikkhunis in Los Angeles Buddhist Vihara. And over here you can see one German bhikkhuni, one American bhikkhuni, and one Korean bhikkhuni. They are here. Yeah. This is Dhammadharini bhikkhunis. And these um, uh, female nuns in Sri Lanka and Tibetan Buddhist nuns, very famous Tibetan Buddhist monks, nuns. Um, we can see these, this is um, uh, Siladhara bhikkhunis, or they call bhikkhunis, or they are not bhikkhunis actually. They are sayales. We call them sayales in Myanmar. They wear the pink color clothes, and they are just 10 precepts. They really are also dedicated. It's very hard to from the traditional Buddhist countries to find. Over here you can see Meiji, and that is the Thai version, like respected mother. The female monastics in Thailand, and again they are 10 precepts practitioners. Um, right now we have a few Thai bhikkhunis also. This is Sunim is the Korean version for monks and the nuns. So also it is a respectful way to um, call them Sunim. And there are so many Sunims in Korea. I have visited Songwon-sa. I visited some one bhikkhuni forest meditation center in South Korea. There were 300 bhikkhunis. Really, really amazing. Right in the middle of the forest, they live. Yeah. And this is Dharma Master Cheng Yang, founder of Suchi Foundation from Taiwan. She is again a very powerful bhikkhuni who leads the world with powerful Suchi Foundation, where they do so much social welfare activity. That is also why I said, like, we need to have these female bhikkhunis to do a great service for the well-being and happiness of the many. So the Vietnamese bhikkhunis, I think they are called Suko. Suko, like sister. Um, really, very thousands of bhikkhunis are already there. Sukos are there in USA alone. I know quite a few friends from the Vietnamese tradition. So the term Buddhist nun is bhikkhuni, bhikkhuni, uh, which is fully ordained female in Buddhist monasticism. So the tradition of fully dedicated bhikkhuni nuns in China has been around since 4th century. Female Buddhist monastic community in China has survived despite many difficulties in the 20th century. Again, China is a very powerful country, and I think second largest population in the world. So there are like hundreds of millions Buddhists there, and so many bhikkhus and bhikkhunis are they are practicing the dharma. And Ajan in Thai, that means teacher. So some of the Buddhist monastic titles that you need to remember, like Ajan means like teacher. So there could be like monastics who have at least 10 vasa in seniority, they can also be called Ajan. And sometimes the lay teachers are also called Ajan. I met some lay teachers, they are also called Ajan. I think it comes from like Acharya, the Pali word. Amma meaning mother, and is sometimes used by nuns. And Aya is genderless term, sometimes meaning venerable, and can be used for all the monastics, including novices. Ayya or Ayya. But mostly in the Western, among Western bhikkhunis, they use Ayya. Ayya Tatha Loka, Ayya Kema, or Ayya. So many Ayyas are there. Um, I know quite a few of them. I meet them actually every full moon day. I give them over the or instructions by a senior monk for quite a few years. I meet them online. Tomorrow I have a Dhamma talk to them because yesterday was the full moon day and they asked me if I could um, give the Dhamma talk. But I said after this class, I would do it like Tuesday morning. I'll meet them tomorrow. The Bante is another term that you probably have heard mostly the Theravada Buddhist monks. If you don't know the name, you just call them Bante. Easy for you to remember. And brother, sister used by monks, nuns, in some monasteries. And Tantai, word for monks who do not have 10 vasa in seniority. In Thai version, you can call Tan. Thera, Theri, used for senior monks and nuns who have more than 10 vasa. Vasa means rains retreat. So the monks, the Upasampada or higher ordained monks, their seniority is counted by the rains retreat. How many rains retreat you have observed? So when we meet the Sangha, the other monks who are new to us, maybe if we go to any assembly of the Sangha, we ask the other monks, how many vasa? And then they said, I have 10 vasas, I have 20 vasas, or something like that. And then accordingly, we, despite, regardless of your biological age, you have to respect the other monk. If he is senior to you, depends on your vasa. So for me, I have more than 30 vasas. And venerable also is used for all monastics, like venerable monks. Here we have also few venerable monks, right? Right. So I think it is time for Aile uh, to do some activity. Before that, Mark, do you have a question?
Yes, Monday. So, just want a clarification. In Theravada tradition, does it mean like bhikkhunis have to be a separate sangha, not like they would not like live under the same sangha with bhikkhus?
Um, Usually they live separately, but they according to the Vinay they have to live close. If you know, if for their safety, I think they also have to live close to the bhikkhus, especially if you are like in a forest or something. And right now in countries like this, I guess safety is not that of a problem. If you live in cities, already it is secure, safe. And although some countries like maybe they still find it hard. If you stay in forests, it's even more challenging. I know like the Dhammadharini, they have a city center and also the forest center, and that forest center has wildfires. They have mountain lions. They have what do you call poison oak leaves. They have what not so so many challenges, but they still practice in the forest. I was really impressed. You need to go there, Aranibodhi Hermitage. You need to meet Bhikkhuni Ayatataloka. She is a wonderful Bhikkhuni. She is one of those champion bhikkhunis in the West who have actually trained so many bhikkhunis in the West. Yeah, I've met her many times. Okay.
That is inspiring. And also this book,
Mm.
Buddhism, 2,500 years of women. So around India, Japan, China, and contemporary women.
Yeah, who is the author of that book?
It's Sally Tisodale.
Oh, all right. So please type the title and the author. So if it is available, the other people can also take a look. All right. Ayla?
All right, hi everybody. So for our exercise, I thought we can do another form of Qigong since we've already done a little bit so far. So this one is called I Jin Jing. So if you want to stand up, have your legs hip width apart and have your toes pointing slightly inward. And then to start, we can just do some moving back and forth, tapping to help us loosen up our shoulders. And then I'm going to show us some movements. Here, let me go back a little bit more. I'm going to show us some movements that we repeat 3 times with relaxing between each time. So first, let's raise our hands up in front of us. And then we want to pull them in like this and push down. And now let's just relax. Then again, we'll lift our hands up and push down. Relax. And then third time, up and push down. And then relax. Our next movement, we're going to make our hands into like a fist, but our thumb is sticking out. And we're going to actually poke that into our waist. So we'll push in and now relax. Push in, relax. Push in, relax. Now we're going to do a fist, but this time the thumb goes inside of your fist, tucked in, and we're going to push our fists in a little bit under our belly button and really flex those muscles. In and relax. In, relax. Push in and relax. Now we are going to raise our fists. This time they're going to be fists with regular fists with the thumb on the outside, not on the inside. So we raise our fists up to our nose. And then we want to make a pulling motion so that our forearms come together. And now we relax. Pull forearms together and relax. Pull arms together, relax. Now we're going to raise our hands up and make a pulling motion down and relax. Reach up like we're pulling something down. Relax. Reach up and pull down. Relax. Now this is going to be another pulling where we're like pulling out in a circular movement on both sides. So we pull, relax. Hands in the middle and pull apart, relax. Our hands meet again and we pull apart and then we relax. Next movement is, imagine if you're holding a knife in each hand and you want to stab into your shoulders. So we have this stabbing, strong feeling, and then relax. Stabbing, flexing your muscles, then relax. And one more time. Let's relax. Next, we are going to, same with our hands and fists, push out and relax. Push out, relax, and push out, relax. We can bring our hands to the front and we're going to push forward and relax our hands. Push forward, relax, push forward, relax. For the next movement, we're actually going to bring our hands together and bend down so that our hands are meeting like between our legs. So while we're bent down, you want to push the outer edges of your arms together like this. Then relax. Arms, outer side of arms together. Relax. Together. And relax. Now to come up, let's move our arms up like this, like we're bringing our energy up. And then we take our hands to hit ourselves, not hit, but meet on the back, kind of like where your kidneys would be. And then the next movement is optional because it involves a jump. So if you don't want to jump or don't want to, don't have space, don't want to bother your neighbors, you can go ahead and skip it. But we're gonna bring our arms up again, bend our knees, and then we want to push forward and jump forward like this. And now we have our final movement. We're just going to bring our energy up, moving our hands like this, and then back down like this. And now let's just stand here, relaxing our bodies for 3 cycles of breath. So let's breathe in, relax, breathe in, and relax your body. And breathe in and feel your body relax. And that's it. That's what I have for today.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Ayla, for that exercise as well. I think we are so privileged to have these resources within us. Please give her a big hand of applause for all um, the energy um, that was generated through this activity. So we are going to meet after a week, and I'd like to ask if someone else wants to um, do this activity in the next meeting, let me know.
Well,
Before we.
I will. I volunteer.
Okay, wonderful. All right. So Jojo will be the next one in the next class then. All right. So I would like to now go to the discussion panel. I mean, like yesterday, um, I will share some of the articles, and so what you have to do is like yesterday you can read. Okay, I will quickly share the link. um, I think if you can see, even though there is a link, you can still see the title over there, right? So um, I quickly want to only share the link, and so you select which one is more interesting to you. And today I discuss about the bhikkhunis, and I have quite a few interesting articles on them, the bhikkhuni order. So please read whatever article that you find most fascinating to you, and then go through it.
Banki,
Yes.
are we foregoing the 5-minute break for 6:30?
Oh, yes. Six, already 6:30. Yeah, please go ahead and take a break, just 5 minutes. Okay. And so we will see you in 5 minutes. And meanwhile, I'll share the links here. Okay. Thank you for the reminder. You are also welcome to read more than one if you wish to, at least one.
Yes.
All right. It is time for the presentations. Your reflection on your paper. So whosoever is ready, you can start. Anyone wants to volunteer first? Yeah. You have less than maybe like within 3 minutes or something, if you can. Otherwise, you won't be able to.
I can go first, Monday.
Okay.
So I read the article named Freedom of Woman in Buddhism, Buddha's Revolution and Yet the Realistic Challenges. So this article really helped me to put into words the paradox, because like I kind of see this even in Vietnam too, with Mahayana, but like I didn't know how to describe it. But yeah, this one was kind of describing it was a complex paradox between the revolutionary spiritual principles and the persistent institutional limitations. So I in the past I always kind of like know the difference between Buddha's teaching versus Buddhism, right? So these things are two different aspects, and yeah, this article kind of discussed that very well, um, on how like Sangha are still institution, and it is kind of limited by still contemporary social norms, uh, and it depends on the culture, on the societies that women might still face a lot of challenges in and in I were and then let me see here. I was most shocked to read that. Let me see. Uh, so yeah, like in Buddhist teaching, there's a lot of instances and example of how women are uh, like women can achieve all states of enlightenment, just like there's no discrimination. But in practice, uh, let me see. There are some like I couldn't find it now, but like there's some in some places, uh, the bhikkhunis have to ask for the bhikkhu's permission in doing something, like no matters the hierarchy, like or the seniority. No matter the seniorities, even the bhikkhunis have more seniorities. They still have to ask the bhikkhu for permission. So yeah, I didn't know that. And then I also learned that there's a concept of dual ordination. Can you talk more about that?
What is it?
Dual orientation. Is it like both? Does it mean like the bhikkhuni will be ordained in both Mahayana and Theravada?
I can actually talk on that. So it actually refers to the bhikkhuni has to ordain or be recognized by the female monastics and the male monastics.
Oh, yeah. Right. In the picture also, you saw the bhikkhus and the bhikkhunis. So if someone wants to become a bhikkhuni, they have to, be ordained from both sides.
Got it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Mark, for your reflection. Please give him a big hand of applause, and we will quickly move to another volunteer who would like to explain, express about your article.
I can go next.
Okay.
I read the article. Give me a second. I read the article. The origin of the development of the bhikkhuni. I like this article a lot. Because it talks about when the group of women went to Buddha and asked to be ordained, but then Buddha rejected. The group was led by his foster moms and a bunch of his aunts and 500 females, but it was refused by the Buddha because he felt that the women should not leave homes, and could be maybe because it's kind of danger for women to to travel alone. So then Ananda stepped in and requested Buddha to accept them, and he did. But he made really rigorous rules for the females to be ordained. And then it also talks about the early developments of the bhikkhunis in different regions, like in India and Sri Lanka and Asia. But then it slowly disappeared in India and Sri Lanka. But in Asia, like Vietnam and Thai, is very prominent. Some of the disappearance of this group of bhikkhunis due to the political and social pressures from governments and other areas. And then it talks about the spread and then the disappearance, and then how the developments of many nun and nurseries, and how the bhikkhunis have made prominence to contribution to the Buddhism. And it also shows the equalities in the Buddha visions at this time was very important. I think in America, this to be able to become a nun or to be able to be somebody in America is very normal for us. So we don't appreciate that a lot. But in Asia, like Vietnam specifically, women's are still low class, I guess. We're not the same as men's. So we're not allowed to eat with the men sometimes. Women have to eat separately in certain part of Vietnam, and then women are not allowed to do certain things. And the Suko was mentioned in one of the slide. The nuns or the bhikkhunis in Vietnam is called Suko. A lot of the Suko temples or monastery are very low support, meaning not a lot of people go there and contribute. They tend to contribute to the monk temples more. So the nuns in Vietnam still are very poor, and they try very hard to do a good job, but it's very hard for females to in Vietnam or other Asian country to be equally viewed as important as monk. If a lay person were to choose between a monk or a female nun to run to for advice, they would most likely go to the monk, and they would not go to the females. It's still seen as lower than here in America. It does not view as inequality. So I found this article very interesting, and it made me think back how in Vietnam, the Siko still suffers a lot, and there's a lot of temples that need help. So that's my presentation.
Thank you, Julie, for your um, personal views and reflections. Yes, so you can see even after 2,500 years, the world is, still some parts of the world, even here, the bhikkhunis, they really struggle. I know that. Like, they don't still get the same support as the bhikkhus. So I personally encourage people to go and help those bhikkhunis, whether it is Theravada or Mahayana, it doesn't really matter. I think we all need to visit them, and help them, and how they have dedicated their life and energy for the well-being and happiness of the many. Okay, so I will give you the chance to speak. Okay, next one, please.
I can go ahead. I read the first article you posted Monday. It's about the revolutionary departure of Buddhism's teachings from the traditional Indian culture at that time, back in 6 BC. I find this article very helpful and very insightful, because it gave me a very holistic overview of what difference Buddha's teaching are from the traditional things. So as you summarized in the article, that I think Buddha is so courageous to go beyond his era and then his whole culture, and then at that time the in that social and cultural condition, one of the things I think other people already mentioned is the inclusion of women in religious life and Buddha. I'm sorry, I think my my computer suddenly is running low of battery.
Oh,
I think I'm plugged in, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I think I can finish, or it's running really low. Yeah, just give me
okay,
a second
okay,
to check.
right.
But anyway, yeah, so I'll try to finish and then check my battery. But anyway, yeah, I find it, and then so religiously, he emphasized the personal verification, as Xiaonan, I think, pointed out yesterday that she found it very, very it's like a very profound teaching that we have to observe and then investigate each person by themselves rather than just surrender to some authority and then or like just surrender to the tradition and then all the what Vedic ritualism and then the Brahmins and then they taught us about right at that time. So I think religiously Buddha really emphasized the equality and then the personal verification and the investigation. That's very important. And then philosophically, it is really against this whole non-self, no Atman thing. It is really beyond, far beyond like the traditional Indian religious belief at that time, which basically advocates this traditional, the Atman, there is a Brahman, a bigger soul, whatever. So, and then ethnically, also it does focuses on like Buddha taught us each person can work hard and then as long as they practice and then they follow the right path and you can achieve individual liberation rather than being like restricted by this caste system. So and then also you also mentioned the linguistically and then economically and then socially, like all the Buddha's teachings. I think I find it so fascinating because if you think about that, that's like a 2000 and or then like 2,500 years ago. All these thinkings and teachings, it's far, far beyond that time of thinking. So, and I think you really need like courageous, such like amazing courage to go against at that time that all the tradition and culture and go beyond that, which really I truly believe it provides us the freedom, the true freedom, which is the liberation. So yeah, I find this article very, very good. Thank you very much, Bande.
Thank you so much. And also, please feel free to send your comment if you like the article, so that other people and these articles will be helpful. If you also give comments over there, that will also be very nice. And I like to invite you to do that as well. Okay, let's move on to the next person.
I'll go, Bante.
Okay.
I did the article that was based on the bikinis and the
The Garudharmas.
that's it. Thank you. Slaughter it. I chose that article because I didn't know what the word was, and I was curiosity. I just wanted to know. But basically, what the there are rules. There's 8 principal rules is what it was talking about that the bhikkhunis need to follow in order to be within their monastery, but it was predated back for Buddha that made the rules for the women during his time, and essentially to sum everything up quickly is that in modern times, there's all those scholars and different people that view it as an an equality, so that it's not really equal and what Buddhism actually stands for to represent that between the rules and women. But it also, talks about, some believe that it was just more or less based on that time, especially because it was so new to put out there. So essentially, that the one part for like the was the under the protective aspect was, to have the men be there so it would look more acceptable, more or less like it wouldn't be as some type of mockery, is what I gathered for it, as a protective basis. Um, where as a lot of the females are, very traditional and don't view it as a burden, but um or an equality. And I think that I don't really find that it was Buddha being personally uh you know an equal pertaining to to women. It's just more to protect women, and quite frankly, I think that it could still be justified in society today because women still need protection and there's still so much, prejudice towards women. And I mean, I find it relevant. And I think that it's good that he acknowledged that for women so that we can continue to move towards the path of liberation the best that we can without um, as much problems from society or men specifically. But I thought it was an interesting article, and I hope I got that wrapped across and condensed easily enough for everyone else to understand what's in the article. But it was good. There's a lot of material, but
Thank you.
thank you.
Right. Thank you so much. And please give Yushi and also Tara a big hand of applause. And Tara, I could hardly see your forehead. You're like sinking in the globe. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the next person.
I also did the article on the Garudanas, so I'll speak next. Building off of what Tara was saying, I think that a really important aspect that was brought up in the article was from a literary analysis. There are key contextual clues in the not only the rules but the stories themselves about how the bhikkhunis and the women originally approached the Buddha and were asking for ordination, and the repetitive nature of the Buddha's refusals, Ananda's intercessions. I'm reading off of the article. It followed patterns that were typical of actually like later didactic literature. So from a historical account, it's likely that this was actually shifted over time. And from a historical perspective, that does also need to be considered because, as Tara was saying, in all likelihood, the differentiation between the rules for the females and the males likely stem from societal pressures and fear, safety concerns, how to integrate the women into the society in a manner that would provide them protection while also letting them practice. All of these things would have had to have been considered, and it would have been a very difficult task, especially in a society that was very patriarchal at the time and had a very rigorous caste system. So it would have been a fine line to walk. And I think that that is definitely an important thing to consider when looking at the Buddhist perspectives on gender and equality.
Thank you. Thank you, Kyra. Please give her a big hand of applause. This article was also prepared with a balanced frame of mind. I wanted to, present both for and against arguments so that the reader can have a balanced perspective of the situation. And also, we need to remember, like, Mahapajapati Gautami and all her retinue, large retinue of those female followers, they were all from the royal family. And if they were like, just lost in the forest, they have not been used to. It's not like normal other people, regular other women. These people have been living in royal families with not so much contact with the regular lifestyle. So it would be, we need to also think of that situation. They are probably Buddha was thinking their safety, their comfort, and many things like that. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the other student. Who's next?
I can go next. I
Okay.
also read the article about the Garudamas, and I think it's there are a lot of different interpretations, as people have mentioned. There are some people that say, yes, this absolutely was the word of the Buddha. There are some ideas that, this was added in later. And, there are some bhikkhuni orders that are, fully abide by these, some that bring them into question. And so it's definitely a very complex issue, but I think definitely what kind of, to me, speaks a little bit more is the fact that women have throughout, all different times in history and different locations, women have, come to Buddhism, seeing it as a path for liberation, and, not expressing that this was a, situation of subordination or oppression. And so I liked the examples of different different bhikkhuni orders that we've gone over, and how some, like I said, some are completely fine with following these 8 Garudamas, and some make adjustments that they feel fits more with adjusting to cultural the cultural like background. And so I feel like it all comes back to the what is it, the I can't remember the sutta, is it the Kalama? Yeah, the Kalama Sutta, in which we can still bring things into question and go with what we truly feel to be the way that is closest abiding with the Dharma.
Thank you, Ayla. I knew this article would be more popular because we know like people have a lot of concerns about the Garu Dharma. So I think this article would be very helpful. Okay, please give her a big hand of applause. And who else do we have? Hold on. Okay, few more people. If you want to say something about the article you read, you are welcome, or else we can go back
Bunty,
to.
can you see or hear me?
Yes, very well.
My computer kicked me out, so I'm on my phone now. But I can try and do the one that I read, which was the Sarah Theory Sangamita, the pioneer of women.
Yeah, that's
so
interesting.
if you have video, then I'll go ahead and start.
Yeah, please.
I thought this was a really interesting article because I knew that she had brought Buddhism to the bhikkhunis to Sri Lanka, but I didn't really know the specifics of it. And this article gave a background on it. So it starts with King Ashoka in approximately 268 to 232 BCE, which is before Common Era. And he had two children, Mahinda and Sangamita. They both went into the Buddhist practiced appreciation, and she became very adept as far as being very learned and spiritual attainment. So that's kind of the setup on their side. Going back to Sri Lanka, there was the Sri Lankan king, Deva Nampiya Tissa, and he was 250 to 210 BCE with his queen Anula. So Ashoka's son, Mahinda, went there and established the bhikkhus. But there was a very interesting catch-22 because Queen Anula wanted to become a bhikkhuni, but in order to become a bhikkhuni, you had to have an ordained bhikkhuni to ordain you. And since there was no one in Sri Lanka who was ordained, that left a catch-22, so she couldn't become ordained. So it went back to King Ashoka, and he decided to send his daughter, Sangamita, to fulfill this need that was there. So she did go. She ordained Queen Anula, who became the first bhikkhuni there. And she also took the Bodhi tree from Bodh Gaya. And the Bodhi tree was a symbol of authenticity for Buddhism. So that also became very important there, and it's still there 2 millennia later. So I guess I've never been to Sri Lanka, but I think that would definitely be on my bucket list. If I go to Sri Lanka, I would definitely go to see that tree because that's so inspirational, going all the way back to that time. And it has a lot of history to it. The information itself comes from the two main sources of historical chronicles, which are the Mahavamsa and the Dipavamsa. And the Mahavamsa is the one that details the account and the background spiritually and historically of Sanghamitra. So that is what I have to say on that. And at least my phone let me go through. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
listening.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I also appreciate everyone was trying to cover up almost all the articles. I think with that, we need to maybe conclude, but I have to say a few words before that. I have prepared a model answer to the finals, and last time I did that, but I probably have to go through again. I have to review. If I'm not mistaken, there were some changes, so I want to review that first, and within the next few days I will rewrite an article, an answer, model answer, for the final recap. Okay, so hopefully that will be helpful to you. And let me share the slides again. Okay. Yeah, so okay, we were talking about the Buddhist monastic titles, right? And then the Buddhist philosophical teachings. So the Chulakamma Vibhanga Sutta, it talks about the karmic theory, Buddhist karmic theory. Very important teaching here we can see, and also. Um, um, Vachagotta Sutta, where the Buddha explains about the skillful and unskillful, kusala and akusala, what is skillful and what is unskillful. So, greed, hatred, and delusion, and the opposite of it are explained here. And then after, uh, after Vachagota Sutta, I don't know what happened. After Vachagota Sutta, we can also see another sutta that is Kachayana Gutta Sutta that we discussed before. And over here, actually, this is the Paticca Samuppada, the ascending order and descending order. Avijja Pachya Sankhara, Sankhara Pachya Vijnanang, Vijnana Pachya Namarupang, Namarupa Pachya Salaitanang, like that. So it is explained here in English. And then the ascending and descending order both are explained in the Kachayana Gutta Sutta. I would like to recommend again, like if you read this sutta and meditate for a while, that will be truly wonderful experience. I would like to recommend that also for you. So final recap will be there next time when we meet. But before that, we have maybe a couple of classes. So just wanted to remind that, and hopefully you will have good enough preparation. I also wish you all the very best, and please stay in touch. And if any of you have any question, make sure you ask it in the Google Classroom or just let me know. Hopefully, you have my contact information. I do have WhatsApp. And these are some of the tips and tricks for the final exam. And so, for this final recap, this probably can be helpful. I will share it with you. And also, I will share the how to organize your knowledge and the key themes and structure of your answer, introduction, main body, conclusion, and include examples and analysis. So, um, and also use Buddhist texts every time, like Kalama Sutta, Vasala Sutta, you can also include some of them. Maybe, as I mentioned at the beginning, you need to have some index cards so you can write them down, at least some important quote from Buddhist suttas that will be helpful. If you know some books, that will be helpful. Even if you know the page number, that will be even more helpful. Whichever way, you could show that you are proving your scholarship. That is the important thing here. And time management also will be important. Again, like as we have 3 hours, and you probably have like 45 minutes per question, something. So you need to allocate your time wisely. Maybe first 5-10 minutes you can read and plan your answer before going to writing. Well organized questions, and I will send the model answer to a question. I already have one, but if there is any change, I will review actually, and then I will let you know more. And if you need some help again, as I mentioned, this is my phone number right here, and this will also be my WhatsApp number. So please feel free to let me know. So I have the email address here. Okay, so with that, we conclude today's session, and thank you again for all your active participation. And I hope you had a fruitful um, class sessions this weekend. Also, probably you learned so many things this week as well, right? Maybe like bombarded with a lot of information, but hopefully it was smoothly stacked in your brain so that in future you can use them and further develop for the well-being and happiness of yourself and the others. With that, we conclude, and may you all be well, happy, healthy, and may you be able to do the exam. And don't worry if you were in whatever option, if you wish to do the exam, final exam, try it, because you were there already. So try it, and hopefully we can do better. With that, I conclude. May you all be well, happy, healthy, and good night, and take some rest.
Thank
Sadhu,
you,
sadhu.
Bunty. See you next
Thank
time.
you.